In this week's tech news, we talk about Meta's $16 billion scam ad empire, Elon Musk's $1 trillion payday, Apple's embracing of Google's Gemini AI to improve Siri, the latest in online dating, and so much more. And if you are watching us on YouTube, please like, comment, and subscribe, which really helps the show. So thank you so much in advance for your support. Now on to the news.
Well, Amber, I talked about Meta being the cornerstone of the internet fraud economy in my The Other Mac segment about a month ago, but Reuters had just reported on a trove of previously unreleased documents that show not just the scale of Meta's scam ad empire, but Meta's startlingly casual attitude about trying to improve the situation.
Yeah, this is just shocking to read this. Meta estimated that in 2024, more than 10% of its annual earnings came from advertising banned goods and other scams for a total, now just this number is staggering, of $16 billion in revenue last year. It accomplished this by showing its user base 15 billion scams every day. This has been going on for years, and in 2023, Meta decided to do something about it, namely laying off the entire team that handled advertiser concerns.
Yeah, the details about this are just disgraceful. So in 2023, they estimated that they received roughly 100,000 user reports about fraudsters, and Meta ignored 96% of those. And in fact, regulators in the UK found that Meta was involved in 54% of all payment-related scam losses that year. And that's more than double every other social media network combined. And so what was one of Meta's main suggestions for how to deal with this? Why don't we charge scammers more for running scam ads? Which is just obvious, shows how little they care about users in all of this.
The bizarre thing to me is that here in Canada, as I think many people know, because of the Online News Act, Meta has complied with the act by blocking news. So I totally understand why they chose to do that. But there are a lot of people saying, hey, they're just adhering to the law. Well, it seems that Meta is one of these companies, Jeff, that only adheres to the law when it makes sense for them and they make more money, because this is a perfect example when you talk about allowing advertisements of what are in some cases unlawful advertisements and business activities. You can see that they are making billions of dollars by acting in this really shady way.
And Amber, I would also interject that one of their solution points was that we have to sort of prioritize where we deal with these fraudulent things, because we don't want to get, sued by regulators and stuff. So they were saying, let's make sure that, we focus on places where we might have to pay a fine, because that'll save us more money. So it's very deeply insincere on their part.
It really is. And I will say, once I was posting about this on LinkedIn, Arlene Dickinson, who people will know, of course, from Dragon's Den, as well as other ventures and programs, she actually posted that she had a scam ad using her likeness within the Meta universe, and it was nearly impossible to get that taken down. So if Arlene Dickinson cannot get a scam ad taken down, all of us are in serious trouble.
Indeed.
Now, speaking of scammers, it looks like Elon Musk has convinced Tesla shareholders to support his ridiculous $1 trillion pay package.
Yeah, and this is such Kool-Aid drinking nonsense. It's like a cult. People point to the fact that, there are some really major accomplishments necessary to get to that $1 trillion amount. Well, fair enough. I'm not sure that $1 trillion amount is the goal, because what they ignore is that Musk will still be grossly overpaid, even if he just manages to secure a fraction of those goals, some of which are pretty easy. And, give him controlling shares and all this sort of stuff. It's just hard to imagine. And it's in the face of Tesla's sales continuing their downslide in North America and just cratering in Europe. Like in Germany, sales are down by 50% this year. So that also ignores the fact that Tesla shareholders, in doing this, are diluting their own shareholdings in the process. So it's really hard to understand, but don't worry, Elon's got another solution for this. He swears that Tesla drivers will be able to, quote, text and drive in the next month or two. And I guess that he's forgotten that not only has the full self-driving mode for Teslas actually killed people and they're in court for it, but texting while driving is illegal in most places. So, what does that matter? As we're increasingly seeing, laws are for the rest of us, not for billionaires, right, Amber?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, here are two great examples, right? Zuckerberg and Musk. They only adhere to the law when it is in their best interest, and otherwise they totally ignore it. Now, moving a bit away from Musk, which is something that I think more people should consider doing, it looks like Apple's going to address Siri's AI shortcomings, at least in the short term, by leveraging Google's Gemini at a cost of about $1 billion a year. The improved Siri should reach users in the spring of 2026. Jeff, I am a Google user. You are an Apple user. What do you think about this move?
I mean, something has to be done about Siri. I mostly love Apple products, but Siri's a total embarrassment at this point. So it's good that they are doing something. They really, it's getting to the point where if they can't do it themselves, it makes sense for them to use a partner. So the agreement specifies that the Gemini model will still be run on Apple's own servers. So no data is supposed to be shared with Google. So hopefully the privacy stuff remains intact. And it also does seem that Apple will continue trying to develop its own solution in the meantime. And, in terms of partnering with anyone, frankly, I trust, Google's not perfect, but I sure would trust Google over OpenAI at this point. And Apple's obviously been working with Google for years already through the Safari browser arrangement and all that stuff. So just fingers crossed that this works well because Apple users deserve not to be left in the sort of trail of dust by the other much more functional AI assistants out there.
Absolutely. And speaking of OpenAI, CEO Sam Altman has had a really rough couple of weeks. For example, details emerging from Elon Musk's lawsuit against OpenAI have produced testimony saying that Sam Altman's brief removal as OpenAI's CEO was the result of Altman not being, and I'm quoting here, consistently candid with his communications with the board, end quote, as well as pitting executives against one another, withholding information, and providing conflicting information about his plans for the company. This is something out of a dramatic series or movie, Jeff, including in the face of safety concerns that were being raised, releasing ChatGPT to the public without even telling the board. The board apparently found out on Twitter.
Yeah, and on top of that, we've got OpenAI's CFO was saying that, oh, the market should be more exuberant about AI and, let's stop all this silly bubble talk. In addition to musing about a federal government backstop guarantee for OpenAI because of its investments and importance to the race for American AI dominance, which she tried to walk back a bit, but then Altman came back and said something pretty close to that. So it's no surprise to see where this is all going, where you've got a relatively corrupt government in power that can be taken advantage like this. And what's wild is that, and speaking of companies getting too big to fail, something we should have learned our lessons from in the Great Recession, is that this is all happening aside one of the biggest players in the AI race, NVIDIA. Their CEO is saying at the Financial Times Future of AI Summit in early November that, I quote, China is going to win the AI race, end quote, and arguing that cynicism and excessive regulation in the United States is partly to blame for this situation.
Wow. All right. Well, we're going to keep up with this AI news. You might have already seen Coca Cola's new AI Christmas ads, which I've seen, which some people hoped wouldn't be repeated after last year's backlash over Coke's AI generated holidays are coming commercial. But as Coca Cola's head of generative AI has said, and by the way, this is a surprising entry in the Coca Cola company's org chart, there will be people who criticize we cannot keep everyone 100% happy.
Yeah, and he tried to pin last year's criticism on the craftsmanship sort of quality of the ad, saying, quote, but this year the craftsmanship is 10 times better. It may be better, but there's still no mistaking the animation as being anything other than AI generated slop. Uh, it's also strange that they never mentioned Christmas in this ad, despite it being full of Christmas trees and Santa Claus and all this stuff. But anyway, do you know who else, though, is criticizing AI, Amber? Very important person, none other than Kim Kardashian.
I saw this, so I'm glad we're getting a chance to chat about this. In an interview with Vanity Fair, among other outlets who also published this, Kim Kardashian, who recently hopped on board the fake moon landing conspiracy train, said she used ChatGPT to study for her first year law student's exam and blamed it, that being ChatGPT, for her failing 3 times, saying that it was, quoting here, always wrong. It has made me fail tests all the time. And then I'll get mad and I'll yell at it and be like, "You made me fail. Why did you do this?" And it will talk back to me. I'm kind of speechless a little bit on this one. I mean, who would ever depend on a tool like this to pass any type of exam?
I mean, I think a lot of people just don't understand how AI works. And Kim Kardashian is one of the least surprising ones of those. But, life is a struggle if you're a billionaire reality TV star. So poor Kim. Anyway, in another instance of tech companies trying to get more training data out of their users, the Tinder dating app is now testing a new chemistry feature. And it says it can help you find better matches. All it needs is access to your camera roll. And they called this a quote, a major pillar of Tinder's upcoming 2026 product experience.
Wow. Okay, so Tinder's user base has been shrinking for the past couple of years. So this seems like an attempt to provide better value. But let's face it, this is also a total privacy nightmare. Thankfully, this only happens once you give the app permission to do so, which I don't think I'd encourage anyone to actually do, Jeff.
So thanks again for watching. Let us know in the comments what you think about the Coca-Cola AI ads or Musk's $1 trillion payday or anything else you're interested in there. And if you've enjoyed the show, please like and subscribe. Check out our other videos on the AmberMac YouTube account. And thanks so much for watching.